Welcome back, people. Welcome back. We're struggling for content. But you know what? Gene always gives us something to talk about. He's been busy on X today, really, really busy. I told him, "Did you get anything done today?" He goes, "No, I got absolutely jack all done today." Gene, every time I looked at my phone and I saw Gene busy on Twitter. At 5 o'clock, I got busy. At 6 o'clock, I picked up my phone. And I had 6 missed calls from Gene.
Asking him what to write.
I had 6 missed calls. I thought, oh no, something's happened. Something very, very serious has happened. As Kai has just heard about it, as well as he storms into the room. It's Easter holidays, people. You have to bear with me today. Welcome. Hello, Papa. Thank you. We've got Carragher to talk about. Go. Well, Ben, I'm going to come to you first. Take him. Go on, maybe take him. Well, Ben, I'm going to come to you before I kick these guys out. It's been lively, hasn't it, to say the least?
My word, lively. That's a bit of an understatement. Asim's just doing a little bit of parenthood there, I think, and getting rid of the children. Look at that! Look at the power of the camera. He turns it off, and the kids disappear, and they come back. Yeah, I've only had 24 hours off, and the lawyers are in town apparently, trying to sort out B&R, making sure that it's not going to get shut down for slander. But yes, I did see what's called a slight back and forth this afternoon with our very own main man, Sajid Iqbal, as Avi likes to call him these days, and the legend, and I will say legend because he is a minor legend, I think, Jamie Carragher, fighting his cause for what's called for what he's done, and yeah. It's I think Avi actually said it quite right. I think it is a little bit immature when people are, getting really carried away with top 10s and top 5s and stuff. But I don't really think, if I'm being honest, thinking about it last night when I was watching and catching up, I don't think it's really about the order. It's the principle. And it's the thought process that goes into it, and it's the reasoning behind it. And Asim, very smartly, he's been clipped up many times in the past, and he can do a bit of clipping himself as when he needs to. And he found that clip from Mr. Carragher on Monday Night Football from a few, I think it was last year, wasn't it, or earlier on the year. And he obviously said that, if Salah would have won a Premier League title and if Salah got Player of the Year, then he would be absolutely spoken in the same breath as Gerrard and Dalglish. So Gene obviously held him accountable to that, and I thought it was rightly so. And obviously he come back to him, fair play with his response. And his response, I think, was weak. Let's just put it that way. And I think a few other people jumped on board with it. And I think, I can see both sides of it. My underlying feeling is that he changed his tune and he's put him further down the tree, not because he hates him or because he's made you bitter towards him. But I think one thing that no one can ever hold against Carragher is that his love for the club is there. And I think what Mo did earlier on the season in terms of coming out and speaking out about his future and about his situation, I think Carragher saw that as a real stab at the club. And I think he's defending the club, if I'm being honest. But the reality is, what Mo has done over the last 9 years, I think in the majority of people's eyes, the majority of sane and fair views, he would be in most people's top 5, if not top 3, if not top 2, with what he's achieved, and especially with what he did last season. So yeah, it's one of those situations where I think everyone can see both sides of the fence, but at the same time, I think Carragher's got himself into a bit of a pickle there by obviously changing his tune, and I think that's probably the reason why he's done it. But yeah, very interesting to say the least, and makes for some good content in an otherwise dull international break, shall we say?
Ben, what do you make of his response today to Gene? Because Gene said, I think he was replying to someone else, engaging with someone else, And it was something to do how average of a footballer, average of a defender Carragher is, and he rightly so came and defended himself like he's within his rights to do 100%. I don't personally think he was an average defender. I don't think he was an elite defender, but I think he was a good defender. And his reading of the game and mind and his organizational skills were underrated, and maybe that's what made him a good defender. In terms of footballing quality, with all due respect, I think he was an average footballer. But because of he read the game so well and his organization skills, I think it made him a good defender. Was he a Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, company, all these? I say Vidic. I don't know why Vidic is there as well. But Van Dijk and all these guys, they were generation. John Terry, they were generational talents. Then there's world-class talents. Jamie Carragher wasn't a world-class talent, in my opinion. Then there's a very good, category. I think he goes in there. But that's my personal opinion. But he said, look, I don't blow my own trumpet, as it's not my style and the style for the people of the city of Liverpool. And then he mentioned a few stats and records that only Van Dijk, Sami Hyypiä and himself got rewarded for. I think it was something to do with the PFA Team of the Year. And then Gene said, then defend yourself here. He put my tweet out and he goes, I consider you a legend of our football club, but this shows nothing but hypocrisy by moving the goalposts for one of the greatest Liverpool players. To which he replied then and said, I changed my mind 12 months ago. Later, as I think more this season didn't show enough off the pitch. I don't really care about on the pitch, as it's his first average season. I'd like him to have spoken more for the club after defeats and not kill the manager publicly. What do you make of that comment?
Yeah, so I think from a humility perspective, I don't think he would put himself in the same category as a Terry or a Ferdinand. I think he accepted that. There's quite well documented stuff about him saying that he was quite hurt at the time. The fact that Ledley King even was classed as in a better defender than him, and yet obviously Ledley King, was injured so much. So he was obviously somebody who was an ever present. You don't get to you don't get to be the second most appearances behind Callahan if you're not doing something right. Like, don't get me wrong, he wasn't a Rolls Royce of a defender, but I think that was a good thing about him. He knew his limitations. He didn't try and take people on. He didn't try and, work a back line or something. He was he played within his capabilities, but he also, and he mentioned it himself, and I totally agree, that he elevated the players around him as well in a very similar mold to Jordan Henderson. And a lot of people would say Jordan Henderson's not an elite midfielder, but my words, what a great captain and what a great player on the pitch. And we could do with him this season, that's for sure. And we could probably do with Jamie Carragher for this season as well, because I think a lot of the defensive mistakes that we've made this season wouldn't have happened under Jamie Carragher's watch, and that's including a back four with Virgil as well, because he just wouldn't have allowed those standards to drop. So parking that to one side, I think he is a legend to the club. He wasn't one of the greats in terms of ability, but he is a legend to the club, and that does give him a certain level of opinion, and his weight is given opinion because of the platform that he's on and because the status that he's held in. So I've got a lot of time for him, and I think his passion for the club and his love for the club has got him, is basically got him into trouble in a way with himself with regards to Salah, because he's took it personally, the fact that Salah has come out and lambasted the club in a time of when we were in a real low point. And I think he feels as though that you should never ever go against the club. You should never ever speak out against the club, especially when we're in a bad situation. However, for him to then use that as like a yardstick to then move Salah in, well, he needs to remember that Graham Souness, I'm not old enough to remember Graham Souness as a player, but I'm sure a lot of older fans will know that, Graham Souness had dealings with the Sun that didn't go down very well, and that's not something that people will ever speak about, but it wasn't something to be proud about. there's other situations. You know, Gerrard openly said that he wanted to leave the club and wasn't happy and stuff like that, blah blah blah. And yet, you know, he made that turn around at the last minute, and he's ended up being the status that he is. So there's you could find examples of lots of players who have been legends on the pitch but have made mistakes off the pitch as well. And as I say, Mo has obviously made mistakes off the pitch. You know, he's let his own ego and his own sort of agenda rule over the club. But at the same time, when it comes to on the pitch, he's given absolutely every essence of his body for 9 years. You know, lives in the gym, dedicates himself to his craft and to the club. And his own, you know, I think there's some criticism sometimes that he doesn't come out and speak out about the club or speak out about the situation very often. But then at the end of the season, before we won the league, he tweeted that, you know, it wasn't good enough, he wasn't happy, and he'll fight like hell to be able to bring what's called a successful season. And then there again, he goes and does what he does last season and delivers on his own words. So yeah, I think if Carragher takes a step back and swallows his own pride, because Scousers are very proud, then you know, the reality is he probably will think, you know what, Mo does deserve to be higher up the food chain from that respect. But he's done what he's done, and he said what he said, and now he's sort of covering his own tracks.
Gene, after being exposed, I think that's what we should call it. Call a spade, because in my opinion, he forgot what he said at the overlap. He was trying to justify him being the second best player behind Henry because it was a different type of list. And then people pulled up the receipts, and then he had all weekend to think about it. And then he replied, which in my opinion, again, my humble opinion, was a really poor response. But obviously you've had 3-4 hours to think about it after your little exchange with him. I think he's really, really poor. And why I think he's really poor is because the reason that he gave, like how his off the pitch, I don't know what he called it, spat or unprofessionalism. I don't know what he exactly said. Actually, I don't really care about the pitch. I'd like to have him spoken more for the club after defeats and not kill the manager publicly. So if off the pitch stuff is weighed so much, then Stevie, how many times did you put a request in to leave the football club? Ben has just mentioned, you know, Souness working for the RAG and giving an exclusive to the RAG. So, and in all honesty, with all due respect, Jamie Carragher is the last person that should be talking about off the pitch antics and trying to justify your reasoning for just off the pitch antics having a real effect on the legacy of Mohamed Salah, because we should stick. And the really upsetting thing for me is, Gene, is I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's really strange behavior. And he's now what he's done. And I don't like him even going on to that first tweet saying it's the style for the people of the city. I think that's a deliberate inclusion in his tweet, because he's trying to get the whole locals up and make it into you and Uzwi against them. I genuinely believe that. Even when he was trying to talk about Mohamed Salah in the last couple of months, he a lot of times mentioned that the fans in the stadium, the away ends, don't worry about it. He called them all, them lot are just so, he ridiculed them. Whether it was on Sky Sports, I don't know what. I'll bring up the receipts again.
Real hardcore fans, he said.
Real hardcore fans, and he ridiculed them. I don't mind calling the Anfield the cop, the away end, the hardcore fans. But at the end of the day, it's a lot, in my opinion, and I'm sure the guys who are living, I'm not saying they're any bigger or smaller supporters of Liverpool, but in terms of the sacrifice of getting up 6 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, traveling to Brighton, that is a lot harder. It's a lot harder, and I think everyone else will accept that. But does it make you a bigger supporter of Liverpool Football Club? Not in my opinion. Not in my opinion. And I think he's just trying to make it our camp against your camp, because this label of Salah FC and all that sort of stuff, do you think the label of Salah FC came from the guys who have backed Mohamed Salah because of who he is and what he represents and what he means for Liverpool Football Club? No, is that camp that he has riled up, the local camp, And I'm just before you go, the biggest thing for me is if you're going to say anyone's allowed their opinion, anyone is allowed their list, then if someone puts Mohamed Salah first, then don't get your knickers in a twist, because by your theory and your analogy is, look, everyone's allowed an opinion. It's all about generations. It's all about what the players means for you, and it's a subjective exercise. Then leave it as that. Because I've seen some journalists as well on Twitter today saying, I can't believe Salah is being put above Kenny Dalglish and Steven Gerrard. Why? I thought it's a subjective thing. I thought your list means something personal to you. So you can't have it both ways. And that's my biggest gripe against these lot.
Look, Asim, I will be honest with you. Like, first and foremost, Jamie Carragher is an absolute legend of this footballing in terms of his footballing ability and what he did for this football club at a time when we were absolute shite. Let's be honest, he was unbelievable at times. That Champions League final is a final that I'll never forget, and he was instrumental in that second half. He did put literally his life on the line in that second half. So I'm not going to sit here and blast a footballer that gave so much for this football club. I know, like Ben said, what this football club means to Carragher. It does mean the absolute world to him. So I'm not, end of the day, the thing with me, Asim, is I say exactly what I believe in, and I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. And that's the truth. He's a legend of this football club. Jamie Carragher is a legend of this football club. And obviously, Gerrard carried us all of them years. But don't make no mistake, he had a lieutenant. And that lieutenant was Jamie Carragher. He was the one that there was, when you say Henderson, there was a standard requirement in terms of playing for this football club. Jamie Carragher is the one that made sure that at least that they could do was at least give 110% on that pitch. That, as a footballer, I have no issues with. And I've said this many times. The reason why I questioned him, Asim, is because I believe what he said was hypocritical. I questioned him on it. He gave me his answer. I thought the answer was embarrassing. I genuinely thought it was embarrassing, because I thought, you know what, with all due respect, you gave me I don't want to shit on, our legends either. You guys have mentioned Roche, Gerrard, and Souness. I don't want to shit on them, because these guys are legends of this football club. Gerrard is, I had, 12 for 13 years, every shirt I bought had Gerrard on the back of it. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he handed in a transfer request. No, he stayed at my football club. He was a legend and he gave us everything. He could have gone to 3 or 4 different clubs and he didn't go to stay with his football club. I see it like that. But Diyar, to say that, an interview is the reason why you've dropped him from 5th to 6th when you should have been 1st or 2nd, it is just mind-boggling. Honestly, it's mind-boggling to me that an interview is the reason why, and he didn't come out. When we lost, Salah didn't come out. Every single season, at the end of the season, when Liverpool were not at it, no guy tweeted, Salah come out at the end of every season and give it to us exactly how we wanted to hear it. You know what? Not good enough. We were not good enough this season. We're going to go for that title. This football club, finishing outside the top 5 that year, it wasn't good enough, but we will go and fight for you next season. That was Mohamed Salah at the end of every season. He's a guy that came out and didn't just say it, did it. He went the next season and delivered. And then for them to question that and say, you know what, he doesn't come out and speak about losses, and Salah doesn't speak as much. We all know that, yeah, there's times when he comes out and he speaks about the contract situation and all that type of stuff. Yes, that's Salah. That is genuinely Salah. He's not the guy that's always going to be in front of a camera. And another one thing is he's too big, as a player, if I'm honest with you. He's too big, but we know what the players think of him. The players adore him. He sets the standard. Every single player that has played for Liverpool, you hear Oxes, all these players that have gone, every year they said, you know what? They come out, all of them have said, Mohamed Salah, he set the standards. He's either the first person in the gym, the last person out. He looks after himself to a T. He doesn't do any little thing wrong. Everything is so specific in terms of how he prepares himself for the football, mentally, physically. He's there. So when they used to see him, that is what his Salah gives these players. And for him to come out and say that, for me, I just, you know what? He gave his answer. It was a load of tosh. the thing, Asim, with me is I still don't really understand why he did it. Ben's given us the reason. You know what? He loves the football club, and that's why he said what he said. Okay, TK, I'm gonna go with that. I'm not gonna try and sit here today, Asim, and disrespect legends of our football club. You know, I spent half the day on Twitter today fucking defending Mohamed Salah and defending people's, giving me shit. Oh, you're this, you're that. I spent all day doing that today, so I'm not gonna spend this show, making it all about this. We had he had his say, we had our say. We know where we stand. You crack on, mate. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, 100%. I think what we should finish this topic is like, don't make Jamie Carragher the reasoning to everything about Liverpool. If he think that is, if that's his list, then so be it. And I'm not upset. I'm not upset over him choosing. I repeat for the millionth time, I'm not upset for him choosing Mohamed Salah in 5th, 6th position. He can do what he wants. But like I said last night, if you choose the goalpost, then it'll piss people off.
That was the
And
only
to
issue.
come out with something very poor like that after 48 hours of thinking about it, but that shows you that he didn't have a leg to stand on. He didn't have a leg to stand on, and I'm just very disappointed. And if you're gonna come back at in these comments, like, look, I'm scrolling through Twitter. Like I said, can't believe I'm reading Liverpool fans ranking Salah above Gerrard. Blow my mind, the things I've read the last couple of days. Then have the bottle to defend yourself. Don't turn off the comments then. If you're going to come out with and spout rubbish, then sit there and defend yourself or whatever you said. Don't turn it off. Anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying what's wrong with 6th. I said it in my little clip. I put it on Twitter today. Like, I can't resonate. The affiliation that I have with Steven Gerrard and Mohamed Salah, I will never have that with King Kenny and John Barnes and all the great players that we had. But I grew up watching Michael Owen. I know Michael Owen is not nowhere near legend, but that's my generation. Then Torres came. Then Luis Suarez came. I call Luis Suarez a better player than Mohamed Salah. So this is nothing about Mohamed Salah being a Muslim or anything like that. Do I have a special affiliation with Mohamed Salah and what he represents and how he is with his faith? Of course, I'm proud. I'm proud, just like Ben is a proud Scouser when he sees Curtis Jones enter the field, when he sees Trent enter the field and but it gives you extra pride, doesn't it? Because he's one of your own, a local lad. It's a story that you can relate to. You sat at the same places, you ate at the same places, you went and socialized at the same places as these young guys. So there's a special connection. And that's fine.
You know what? It doesn't have to be a hate-filled rage debate. Like, social media, it gets a hell of a bad press, and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, is a toxic environment. But if you put yourself in that environment, then you've got to be prepared to take it. And Carragher, I think he's been asked millions and millions of times by other pundits why you're still on Twitter or why you're still on X, because you just put yourself up to be shot down. But he chooses to be in there because I think he does genuinely enjoy the debate and like the opportunity to be able to converge with the fans. And this is it. We're not, as fans, saying you're wrong. But if you're going to say something at one point in time and then completely retract it or change it for what we deem to be a very petty reason for changing it, which is on all accounts it looks to be the case, then you are going to be questioned the same way as anyone would be questioned. And because he has the profile and the platform that he has, you are there to be shot at. The same way as if I say something today about someone being brilliant or someone being fabulous, and then in 3 months later they're like, they can't kick a ball, they can't kick a ball to save their life, then I'm going to get people saying, you said 3 months ago that he was amazing, like as if we're some sort of gods who are going to only ever speak the truth. It's only ever opinions, isn't it? And you are allowed to change your opinion, and you absolutely are allowed to change your opinion, and that's what he said. But the reality is, we know that he's changed his opinion because he's basically throwing his dummy out the plan, like Salah did in a weird sort of way, and say that, right, okay, if you're going to go against my club in the way that you did, then you're not seen in the same way as what you were maybe 12 months ago when you lifted the Premier League title. And the same way as, Michael Owen wasn't maybe higher up. I know that he's really close to Michael Owen, but he could never put Michael Owen right up there, even though he won a Ballon d'Or. for Liverpool when he was a Liverpool player. But the fact that he went and played for United tarnishes his legacy forever in lots of player and lots of fans' eyes, and he would get slaughtered for that as well. So there's lots of different reasons why people say what they say, and at the end of the day, everyone's opinion is just that's it. It's an opinion and nothing more than that. And we should all, just crack on and let it roll sometimes. But yeah, it was a really good debate, I thought, and there should be more. I love the fact that you are able to imagine 15 years ago or whatever. There was no way that you could ever have a direct conversation with a superstar player. Now now we're living in a world where I can message anyone on the planet, and 1 in a million chance that they might come back to you. And today it was Gene's turn to be in the spotlight, and he's probably regretting it now after the fact that he got no work done for 7 hours. There we go.
Anyway, people, let's move on. It's going to be another Q&A session today. People, yesterday was unbelievable, honestly. And the same guys are in the chat, this BNR community.
Let's do some questions first, Asim, before we do Diomande. You know what? Bring some questions in, man. Everyone's been on a thing.
That's what I was going to say. Let's because we don't have enough start today. Everybody has been giving their opinion. And just like Alex says, everyone has an opinion, just it's like an arsehole, so everyone has one. So
love it. Can I just say as well, by the way, Asim, it shows you how good the wavelength is. I caught up with the show last night, like late last night, because I was out, so I couldn't do anything else. And I swear, when you were naming your LFC five-a-side teams, just before you said Fowler, I was like, Fowler's in this five-a-side team all day, every day, and twice on Sunday, ahead of any striker. Because on a five-a-side game, if you play, I'm sure you guys have played, you need someone who can finish his dinner. And Robbie Fowler could finish his dinner like nobody else. But my little caveat, and I don't think you would have let it, but I wouldn't have had Van Dijk. I'd have Gerrard as to back.
But you know what? Me, and there's about a few of us, me, Billy, Wiki, we were having the same, because I asked Fana. Fana had who did he have? I think he had Suarez.
Is that your nephew?
My friend and a few nephews as well. Because I asked them, because I thought that was probably the question of the night, the five-a-side. So question. Everybody I talked to in the next couple of hours, I was asking him, okay, what's your Liverpool five-a-side? And everyone had very, very similar ones. But we discussed the same thing, that. And I thought, you know what? It's a good point. I think Billy or my nephew raised it, that would you really have Van Dijk in a five-a-side team? As great as he is,
his attributes don't suit a five-a-side.
Yeah, he's a bit too big.
Get forward.
Do you need that much weight?
He's the best header of a ball on the planet. But when do you ever head the ball in five-a-sides? You just don't, do you? He's not going to be like defending crosses. So I wouldn't have Van Dijk. It's quite an interesting question. There's one player that I'd have in my five-a-side team that nobody mentioned. I'd have Gini Wijnaldum, because he's all over the pitch, never loses the ball. He can defend and he can attack. He's an all-round smart, clever midfielder. I just think he would be absolutely perfect in a five-a-side. Mine would have been Pepe Reina as well, because he's brilliant with his feet. Better than Alisson, and he's a great shot stopper, even though the great man is the great man sort of thing. You don't really need that many one-on-ones, because you don't really get that opportunity to break away. But I would go Reina, Gerrard, and then I would go Wijnaldum, Suarez, Coutinho, Fowler.
That's 6.
Fucking 6. No,
sorry, I got rid of Suarez. I had Coutinho and Fowler.
Coutinho, Fowler, and then Gerrard and
Wijnaldum.
But but the thing is, you need one defender, though.
I know what you mean. But I'm cheating and having Gini as a bit of an all-rounder.
Yeah. But you know what? If I had to go with a type of profile in a five-a-side, because you still have to, one of the attackers. If we've got Gini Wijnaldum, and the thing is, you have to face the players like Neymar and all these guys. So you still need really good 1v1. And if you're alone in a five-a-side, you have to go side to side as well. But you still need to act like a fullback in a five-side pitch, if you like. So I think the profile...
should we sub out Gini for Carragher?
I think the profile of defenders that you could do within a five-a-side pitch is like, obviously they're not at the level of Van Dijk in terms of footballing sense, but the profile is like Mark Gahey, Joe Gomez,
You know,
these
I'm
type
telling
of
you, even
players.
Yeah.
Danny
Not
Agger,
six footers,
Danny
but
Agger
very
would be
mobile. Very mobile.
Agger,
Mobile,
even
all
Agger.
round, ball playing, defensive players,
Yeah.
but have the ability to go forward as well. Yeah, it'd be interesting. That be interesting to say the least.
Peter Crouch. Look, I know we play five-a-side on a wooden pitch here, but we're not playing netball or basketball. We're still playing footy.
We need to be in our five-a-side, don't we? I think we should sort that out
I
at
know,
one
we
point.
need to do something, man.
You know
Be in
what
our
I
five-a-side,
would do, Ben, in the
some other
summer.
channels.
In the summer, we will put out like a challenge to all of them. Anfield Rap, Redmen, Kopish, Hussam, he'll fly over from Jordan. Bring it on. Bring it on. Whether you want to do a five-a-side, six-a-side, bring it on. We'll give you a game,
Yeah,
stream the content, and we'll see who's the
absolutely.
best.
We'll have our what is it? Liverpool fan baller league.
Yeah, it'll be a right laugh, you know.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
One guy goes 2 foot on Ave. Galsa goes 2 foot on Ave.
I don't know if Avi is a footballer. Is he himself? Is he? What's called?
Man, he says to me. I asked him one day. I go, "Who do you play like?" He goes, "I used to play like Michael Laudrup." He's Michael Laudrup. He made him out to be Michael Laudrup.
I think he can be the manager.
I know. I don't think he could do any running anymore, man. But yes, guys, make sure you smash it. Guys, there's nearly 400 of you in here. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Craig goes, I will pay top dollar to watch Avi. I think, you know, I would. I'd love to see him play to see how good he was, because he's made it out like he's fucking Virat Kohli in cricket, Michael Laudrup in football. You know, he just makes all sorts, man, all sorts. But he has to take over.
I liked the question as well that you did about if you can only sign one player in the summer. Gene, with Kvaratskhelia. I think, Asim, did you go Diomande?
I was gonna go. The chat didn't give him the chat didn't give him Kvaratskhelia because it said that that's not realistic.
No, they didn't give him
So
but I think it is possible. It's not like I'd say Lamal's impossible near enough. But I think Kvaratskhelia, if you threw enough money at them, then it would be possible. Mine would be Michael Elise, to be honest. I know it's boring, but I think it'd be Michael Elise. I think he is the best right winger available this summer. And it's like, if you want to go on, you're never going to replace Mo like for like, because he just doesn't exist. But I think we've actually already replaced Salah with Isak and Wirtz, the creativity of Wirtz and the goal scoring of Isak. Obviously, it's two players in one, which shows you how much of a legend Mo is. And that's what we're gonna have to do. We can't replace Mo with like for like. It's just the same way as we won't be able to place Van Dijk with a centre half of the same level. You've just got to find somebody else who's decent enough to be able to do a job, and then you find your stardust in other positions. And I think that's one of the reasons why we went and bought the two players we bought last summer, because I think it was a view to, you know, the long-term plan was we need more world-class players in this team, but there aren't necessarily a right wing world-class player, so let's have one in another position. And so Elise would be the closest for me to Mo, and that's who I would choose in the summer if we got a chance, especially when Mo goes to Bayern Munich.
Look at you. Safe flight. I think has he gone over to Boston yet? But if he hasn't,
I don't know.
Have a safe one, Avi.
He put in the chat, didn't he, before that it's impossible tonight. Is that because he's flying? He's flying,
he's flying. I hope he's taking his laptop for the next 7 to 10 days. Here we are. Who would you sign to play right wing, left wing, and midfielder and centre back? 4 names and be realistic. As you can see with the Q&A, there's a lot of transfer questions, Ben.
Yes, absolutely. Mine's has been quite consistent, to be honest.
You've given me Elise, haven't you? So 3 more.
So right wing would be Elise, left wing would be Anthony Gordon, midfielder would be I do really like Wharton, but I am worried about his fitness record and his physicality. So I would like that. I would like us to take a gamble on. Oh, I always forget his name. Who's the guy? Is he play for Nice or Lens? The midfielder, the young lad. Is it Buadi? Yeah, Buadi. Yeah. I'd have him as a midfielder. I think he's got loads of potential. And then I'd go Slotterbeck is the centre back because I think he can play left back / centre half.
You know, Slotterbeck is signing a contract. Yeah, he came out a couple of days ago.
Oh right, okay. I didn't realise that. Then okay, that's no good. Then is it? That's not happened. So centre back then. Flipping heck, realistic centre back off the top of my head. We've got Jacquet coming in. You know what? People won't want to like this at all, but I think I'm wondering whether Canate does sign a new deal now, you know, and then they're thinking Van Dijk, Canate, Jacquet, and Leone, and that's your 4 centre backs good to go. Somebody made a comment last night. We've bought 1 centre back in 14 years or something, so we're not going to buy 3 in one summer because they just don't have a real.
Jacquet and Leone, so hopefully.
Bought 1, and we're not paying 50 million for a centre back. I'm like putting him on the bench. He's going to play, surely. I know it might take a while for him to come in. People saying Bastoni there. I saw he was linked heavily by Fabrizio to Barcelona the other day. So he is definitely like on the move. But I don't know whether Barcelona can afford him, to be honest. So yeah, he would be the dream. But I think if you sign in Bastoni, then you're sort of like, he's got to play every game, and then where does Van Dijk play? Because Van Dijk's got another season left, and I've still got a sneaky feeling that Virgil will sign an extension again after next year. I think he might do another 1 year after because of his, because of the style of player that he is. You know, you look at Thiago Silva, who went on till he was like 37, 38. I think Virgil, if he was, he's played every game this season. If he was to be, rolled up in cotton wool and laid out for the big games, I think he could go on for another season after next season comfortably. So, yeah, I would say it would probably be Elise, Gordon, Boadi, and I would say there wouldn't be another centre-back coming in.
What do you think of Van Hecke?
Good player, yeah. Good footballer, really good footballer. I don't know whether or not he's got the mentality to step up to a big club. He's obviously at Brighton, isn't he? Obviously, we've seen Caicedo do it. He's obviously done it. But I think Caicedo was known to be a bit of stardust. Is Van Hecke got the mentality to play for an elite team at the top level? He's a very good player, without a doubt. But has he got that physicality? And can he play on the halfway line? I think he lacks a touch of pace, maybe. But good player though. But I think those sorts of players will cost 60, 70 million, and that's why Liverpool aren't keen on spending big money on a centre back, because they think I'd rather spend the 60, 70 million further up the pitch, because I think they think that if they can get a centre back who's going to do a job, then just get him, rather than why pay stupid money for somebody who's not necessarily going to be a million times better than someone who's just decent. Whereas Van Dijk was like a real game changer, and that's why they were prepared to pay the silly money for him. So unless there's, as we say, a unicorn or an elite defender out there, like they were going to spend the big money on Dean Huijsen, because I think they saw that elite stardom in him. But the reality is, they don't think there's a real great market at centre backs, so therefore you just get someone who can do a decent.
Salah, I've got him on Bell, haven't I, on Instagram, and he posted a video, and the first thing that I heard was David Beckham. I thought he was off to America. It's a Pepsi advert. Gene, who's your fault?
Look, I'd go, obviously everybody knows me and Ben are, hardcore Anthony Gordon fans. And if I'm being, realistic targets, is probably Gordon, Diomande, Mateus Fernandez in midfield. Obviously I'd love Anderson, but I think Anderson, like you mentioned yesterday, is probably off to one of the clubs in Manchester. And in terms of centre back, it's difficult, man. I'm struggling with the centre back business. Asim. Obviously, I think he's off. Bastoni seems like it's Juve, even though I think he'd be the perfect buy. Slotterbeck signing a new contract, so that's another one off the list. Avi mentioned this Vuskovic
Vuskovic,
kid. Yeah, it looks like, you know, a lot of teams will be after him, but he's big money. Are Liverpool willing to take that risk and pay that type of money? Probably not. Miscan goes Beraldo. I like Beraldo. I liked him when I saw him against
PSG.
Liverpool last, especially in the second leg, because he played. He was a good player, and the more I see him, he's decent. So you're
Sorry
talking then.
to jump in there, Sheen. But did you see? Sorry to jump in, but did you see Fabrizio tweeted before that? Here we go for what's called Newcastle. I've secured Jonah Martinez, 24-year-old left winger from Colombia for the summer.
Who's he?
Top upcoming left winger who plays who's Colombian, who's signed for Newcastle for the summer.
Really? Oh, now I know why you're saying this. Are you trying to say this? They're buying the Anthony Gordon replacement.
He's only 16, Ben, from what I
yeah. It says he's 24 here.
I don't know. This guy.
Are we looking at the younger version here or something?
What's happened to
Martinez?
What's happened to Castello Luqueba this season? You've not heard his name.
I know, man. Oh, but then he's the guy I've not really heard.
There'll be some people who'll be watching.
Diomande as well, aren't there?
Why hasn't he been mentioned this year? Castello Luqueba, because when we were looking at centre backs and left backs as well, a lot of people were saying we need Luqueba. I really liked Luqueba about a year ago. I've not seen him, and I've suddenly seen his name pop up as well. Tariq is saying Luqueba might be headed to Arsenal. How many left-sided centre backs do they need? Calafiori, they've got the kid who I know he's a bit of a midfielder, but they've got plenty.
Sorry, Gordon going to. Would you be gutted if Gordon went to Arsenal? I would. I think I'd be really gutted if he went to Arsenal.
A few guys are saying Arsenal are going to go for Gordon because they're going to get rid of Martinelli. But I see him a very similar player to Martinelli.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think though, if we were even slightly interested in Gordon, then I don't think it's even a conversation. He'll say, "I only want to go to Liverpool." In the same way as Eze got Arsenal got Eze out of Spurs underneath Spurs' nose because Eze's a gooner, isn't he? And it was like, see you later, I'm off. And I know obviously Arsenal are a much bigger club than Spurs and a much more appealing club. But I think if it was between us and Arsenal for Gordon, I don't think there'd be a conversation as to where he would want to go.
What do you think about Lacroix?
That is, I was just literally about to bring that comment up. Lacroix, he's a good player, decent player, you know. Even people mentioned, remember when we did that quiz and I said I would take, now it's come back, Senesi on a free transfer from Bournemouth. I'd take him, you know. I'd like Senesi if I was to bring him in.
Yeah, it's a free
transfer. You can't.
We're going to have to be creative.
This is what
we're going to have to be creative in some areas, aren't we? We can't. We're not like quite a few of the journalists. Have you noticed the last few days are saying it's not going to be a summer like last summer. You know, they're not going to spend 450 million again. I disagree. I think they will. I think they'll spend at least 200 net again. But it depends on the sales. I don't think we might not sell as many players as we did last summer in terms of we won't have that bigger pot to be able to sell. Yeah. And I don't think we'll buy as many players. I think there's a chance that we could just do 3 players this summer, 2 wingers and a centre mid. We could because you've already got Jacquet. We could do nothing else potentially. I don't know whether that'll be enough. And I think we'd probably still be short, but I think there's a realistic possibility that we could only do 3. And if we do 3 belters, i.e. 2 first choice wingers and a set of first choice centre mid, I think I'd shake on that, if I'm being honest, rather than, you know, putting players. So then if you threw in a free for Senesi, then I think that'd be a great summer.
That's what, you know, Ben, I agree with you. A Senesi, a midfielder, 2 proper wingers with Jacquet, mate, I'm happy with that. It's a brilliant window. We go again and see where we're at. And if it means, okay, not challenge for we challenge for the title, don't win it. But the season after, we really go in and say, okay, now our team is ready. So be it. But at least have the actual.
And a new manager who's going to get more out of the existing squad. I think that would really, rejuvenate us. But we'll see. We shall see.
Would you guys?
I'm thinking about. I know we talked about Jones going, McAllister going, probably Endo going. you know, you think to yourself, we can't get rid of everybody because
Mm.
we haven't got time to be able to do that much business. You know, even obviously I've still got time for Bradley. A lot of people haven't, but it's like you would obviously love to upgrade on him if you could, but there might just not be an opportunity to do that, and therefore he's another one that you've got to sit on for another season. Gakpo, you probably would want to upgrade on him, but again, if he's then playing a bit part role or a role similar to when he was with Diaz, then he'd probably be more effective. So you can't get rid of everybody, unfortunately. We're going to have to sort of like, you know, shake on some of them and say we'll go again for another season and just improve in the areas that we desperately need to improve. That's why I was really surprised when Avi said about what his first priority was a centre back in the summer. I was like, that's my last priority. If you've got 4 centre backs already, and if Canate stays, like obviously if Canate goes, then you have got a problem. But then in theory, you've got Xhaka and Van Dijk. If you're absolutely desperate, we literally got no right winger. Yeah,
he was just being different because
I know he likes to be.
He really likes him. That's what it was.
Yeah, no, yeah, and he is obviously a talent. But you surely your first choice priority now is obviously a right winger because we've literally got nobody there. But Diomande, I was reading today about him he's right-footed, but 95% of his goals have been with his left foot. So to me, that looks like he's just a shoe-in sort of position on that right side. Him and Gordon, I'd be buzzing.
Buzzing.
What about Zaire Emery? Is he realistic for Liverpool this summer? And would you take
the PSG guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest, mate. I've not watched enough of him, so I don't know.
The issue with Zaire Emery, Asim, is I think PSG now will see him as probably the replacement for Ruiz. I think he's played a lot of games this season, Emery has, because of obviously Ruiz's injury, and he's actually had decent games this season. So I think it'd be difficult to praise him away unless he actually really wants out. It'd be interesting to see what sort of contract he's on, but I'm sure he was on a longish contract where he signed for like 5 years, only a year or two ago. But I would take Zaire Emery because I think there's a proper footballer in there. He's
a good asset test to see what he's like at Anfield.
Yeah, I think stuff like that. That's when we really see what a player is all about. But there's still more, like Ben says, we still need to see more of him. We've seen him, over the last few months a few times. I saw him against Chelsea. I saw him against Monaco, and he's a good player. There's no doubt that this guy is a really, really good footballer, and we were linked to him last summer.
What's the chip saying?
Someone's got Wi-Fi on the plane.
Oh, there's a bit of turbulence.
There's always a bit of turbulence.
Why are we living in the
I see what he's saying. I see what he's saying, and I understand what he's saying. But the caveat is Van Dijk and Salah. They signed at the last minute when most people thought that the famous quote, more out than in. And, Ibu is more out than in at the moment. But until it's done, it's done. So I think the closer we get to the end of the summer, the more likely he is to sign. Whether we want him to sign, whether I think we need to go in a different direction, then that's a different conversation. I think if I'm being truly, truly honest, I think I'm ready to shake hands with Canate and say have a lovely career. Because I just feel as though, I don't want a 9 out of 10 one week and a 4 out of 10 another week. We know he's consistently brilliant at certain periods, but you can't throw in a howler every, other month. I'd rather have a 7 out of 10 defender who I know is just going to be solid pretty much all the time. Maybe not, flashy and maybe not fabulous on the ball, but someone who's going to not is going to be completely reliable. And I know that's not possible all the time, but yeah, I think it's time to say goodbye to Canate.
Sticking with the Frenchman, Jean, Eduardo Camavinga. Avi's been talking about him. I think there is genuine interest from Liverpool. Would you take a risk on Camavinga?
Yes, I would take a risk on him. He's a risk worth taking. You're talking about an unbelievable player who's still 24, 25 years old. A lot a future ahead of him. Yes, the question mark in terms of his injuries, but in terms of quality, I think he's a brilliant footballer. Played at the highest level, you know, Champions League finals, all of that. Every time I've seen him play against Liverpool, he's always stood out. He's always turned up. You can't get the ball off the kid. He's such a brilliant shielder of the ball. Really good passing range, and you know, he's one of them players that you take in a heartbeat. It's like Chouameni when we wanted him. You know, he went there. People saying, "Oh no, after year two, if Chouameni is available right now, you bloody jump on him." That's how well he's been playing this season for Real Madrid. But Camavinga isn't as in the team as much.
If you had one choice between Chouameni or Camavinga, who would you take right now?
The Liverpool Football Club, Chouameni. Just because I think he's a proper six.
I think I'd have too many as well, to be honest. He has obviously had a lot of injuries, hasn't he?
Yeah, Camavinga's.
But I'm convinced that Rodri's going to Real Madrid now this summer. Wow. Convinced. Bernardo Silva's off. They've bought Anderson basically already. They've got Nico Gonzalez. They can't all play. So I think Rodri's going to Real Madrid, in which case that means that somebody from Real Madrid will be off to somewhere. We don't know where, but Camavinga could well be an option. He's still young, Camavinga, as well, isn't he? 24, 25?
23.
Look at that.
23. So, you know, you look at that, you know, and Liverpool like to build like partnerships and groups. So you've got Ekitike, you've got his best mate Elise on the right, and then you've got Camavinga in midfield. That's a lovely little, you know, French contingent who can, you know, grow together over the course of the next 3 or 4 years. I like it. I definitely like it. Come on then, Asim. Henry's just jumped in there and said, who's your realistic for?
I think Camavinga is realistic.
Yeah, he's realistic. I agree with that.
And the beauty about Camavinga, what I envisage,
I need to get
and like sort of paint a picture, is the two big lads up top. I've been saying it from day one. Where do we see Ekitike playing? Whether it's in a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2, Diamond, whatever it is, do you foresee him starting more games, or do you see him as a backup striker? And just the personality and the character of the player, you'd be very, very like convincing reluctant as a manager and a coach, and reluctant as well not to start him. And then good luck in terms of dealing with that type of player. And if we sort of have any plans, whether it's a 4-2-2 or a 4-4-2 Diamond, Eduardo Camavinga, for me, in a Diamond is one of the perfect players. And just imagine a Diamond of having even someone like a Wharton at the base of it, and then having Szoboszlai and Camavinga on either side, and then having Florian Wirtz at the tip of it. Camavinga can play midfield. He can go in the double pivot. He can go out wide and be a left back at times, a left midfielder, a conventional midfielder. And same with Szoboszlai. You've got legs around someone like Wharton. And I'm not saying, look, Wharton's going to play every week. Gravenberch isn't needed. Gravenberch can obviously play on the left-hand side of the Diamond as well. We would have options. If that is our Diamond, and I like a Diamond, maybe not every week, because I think it's got too much reliance on the fullbacks. If you're going to do it, then go add depth in those areas as well. But for me, I really, really like it. Wharton, Camavinga, Szoboszlai, and Florian Wirtz. I think that's got everything.
You know what's really, really interesting as well is that Camavinga, I've just checked it now while you've been talking, his contract runs out in 2027. So he's on 2 years this summer. And that's the primary time, isn't it? No, 1 year this summer, sorry, yeah. 1 year this summer. 1 year, yeah. So you're getting him for 40, 50 million, aren't you, I think, this summer?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that. I didn't realise that he's only got 1 year left this summer. That's fascinating.
I think he's just another Naby Keita. Great, brilliant player. All the talent, but just injury prone. But I like that as a Diamond.
I think that's really
Diamond this season.
Wharton, Camavinga, Szoboszlai, Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, and Isak.
I like
that works.
But then am slightly controversial with Ekitike in the fact that I still don't think that Ekitike is playing week in, week out. And because I don't think Isak's playing week in, week out. I think they've been bought to dovetail.
Ben, I got
and
to
I
ask
think
is
that,
my,
you know, you've got
is
to
my
play
uncle
Isak,
going to do the
hopefully.
pressing? With that team, is my uncle going to do the pressing?
No, I know. Well, I think the two wingers are going to do the pressing. I think that's what's going to happen in general.
But I'm not saying you can play that.
You
should play that every week. I don't want Liverpool to play a diamond every week. I don't want that. Everyone wants wingers, and we will buy
flexibility,
wingers.
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Flexibility. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep on moving, people. We have a super chat. SKLFC, thank you so much for sending this through. UCL window, Europe window, 3 to 5 signings each.
Everybody wants signings, man.
You know what? LS27, by the way, I did start it at the earlier part of the show. He said he wanted a link for my top. Billy's in the link. Billy's in the building. Billy's in the link. Bilal bought this top for me. He gifted it to me because when we had access to which game was it? We had, I think it was Bilal bought it and he wanted me to go to the mix zone, which I did, and then get this signed. But at Anfield, I think it was another game, the Atletico Madrid games or Bilbao game. Bilbao games.
Bilbao.
We played him at 5 o'clock.
Don't tell me you were in the mix zone and you asked Salah to sign it, and he said, "If I sign that, there'll be fire."
No, only Cody Gakpo came, and I didn't bother asking him.
Oh, right, okay. And he was like, "You can carry on, mate."
Oh my God! Well, Cody Gakpo did come that day, and you know that Sky Sports journalist. What's his name? He always asked.
Oh yeah, the idiot. Which it took about 10 minutes.
No, Vinny O'Connor. He peed off everyone that day. All the fan channels were there, including us. And you get access every day. Give it to the guys who don't get access. And he came, and obviously because it's Liverpool, I think they've got some right to go to Sky Sports first. And he asked him about like 10, 15 questions, and everyone was looking at. And because he took so long, he just went. And it was Van Dijk and Cody Gakpo. And right at the end, from the other side, Florian Wirtz came, because you've got like a corridor, and the players either can walk through the mix zone or they can go to the corridor that is parallel to the mix zone. And I think David Lynch was with me that day, and he goes, "Look, how it works is you can either go to the press conference or go to the mix zone. It's your choice." So I said, "Look, I'm not bothering with slot. I want to go to the mix zone." And so I went, and then, because he took so long, it just became an absolute joke. But if the players can be asked, they'll come through the mix zone. If they can't, they'll just go through the one that's parallel to the mix zone. But I think the club has a obligation to at least bring one or two. Yeah, to one or two, which it was Cody Gakpo that day, and Van Dijk, to be fair to him, I'm told he comes in week in, week out. So, so he was supposed to be a Salah, and he didn't come that day. So that's why I ended up wearing it. So LS27, we'll get into with Bilal. I'll get the link off him, and then I can message me on Twitter, and I'll send you the link. But big up for that. What was the question, by the way? The super chat.
This one, super chat.
3 to 5 signings for Europa to UCL.
Go for it, boys. Go for it. Let me
just. We're going to do a quick. We'll do 3, Ben. 3 signings, Europa, 3 times Champions League.
So do a UCL, then do a Europa. So a UCL signing would be Elise.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay. A Europa signing would be, I think Gordon would be UCL or Europa.
I agree with you.
I think we could get him if you're in Europa.
That's our winger done.
That's our winger done, yeah. Midfielder, I think you could still get Wharton in Europa.
But I think Mateus Fernandes is more. I think Mateus Fernandes is a banker. He's a banker if we get. Because Wharton, if a Champions League club comes in, maybe
if he goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
That
Matheus
might be
Fernandes
a
is
hard
probably
to
more
swing.
realistic.
All right, so we'll go Wharton Champions League and we'll go Fernandes Europa.
Yeah.
And then defender. Flipping heck. Defender. I think a Van Hecker would come in for Europa League.
Ooh.
Or a Van der Ven would come for Europa League. Because they would come for the pull of signing for a big club like Liverpool. Yeah. I think a lot of Premier League players, funnily enough, would sign for Liverpool with Europa League football. I think our market would actually change to because if you think about United getting Mbuemo and Cunha with Europa League, you know, if we could get, like, I know it won't happen, but I think Jared Bowen had come with Europa League for Liverpool.
I think
if that was,
the English
you know,
players,
that was a potential option. Yeah,
I think the English players, because of if we're in the Europa League for one season, I think the English players will still come because Champions League is 5 teams. Because it's 5 teams now.
Yeah,
there's a major big chance that, you know, you'll be definitely in there next season. You know, albeit because everybody knows we had such a short season and our squad is still good enough. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why.
It's a great shout for Europa as well. João Gomez, he would come in Europa League, I think. There's quite a few. So I don't think it would be. I think the problem is that the absolute stardust would be off the table if we weren't in the Champions League. And you would probably then all of a sudden be under real pressure to get into Champions League next season, because if you were out of the Champions League for 2 seasons, then you'd be looking at losing your star players, your Birch, your Isak, your Ekitike. You'd have to sell one of those the following summer. I
think Jan Diomande will come for Europa League.
Yes, I agree you would as well, because I think the package that we'd be able to offer him, we'd probably triple his wages, and it still would be like well within the club's budget. Like, because let's not forget, I know we're not getting a fee for Salah this summer, but 450 or 400 grand a week off the wage bill is massively significant, isn't it? You know, you could get 2 elite players for that salary, couldn't you? So, you know, you are going to be able to do a lot with that money. I think we can still do quite a bit. It's funny, actually, you know, we were saying the other day, I was absolutely adamant that if you said to me, would you take Slot for another year, and if you got Champions League, or would you accept being in a Europa if you got the manager that you wanted? I've changed my mind now. I want the manager. So I would now go as far as to say that I'd happily spend a season in Europa League for us to get the right manager in the summer, because I think it'll be 1 step back to take 2 steps forward, or 3 steps, or 4 steps, or however many steps it would require. I'm really strongly about it. I think that you could be in Champions League, you could sign another 2 or 3 great players in the summer, and then 10 games into next season, the football is a similar style to what we've been used to this year. And you're like, bloody hell, what do we do now?
Gene?
I don't know what you think.
Do you agree? I can't lie. I said, look, there's no guarantees of coming back into Champions League. Sometimes if you go for 1, you're away for 3. And do I want to risk that? Do I really want to risk it? But I can understand it. Have I changed my mind?
I'm just not ready to watch this style of football any longer.
I know, but some of those players that you were mentioning, like, you know, that we could only attract if we're in the Europa League. I'm not convinced. I'm not there yet. I'm not there.
So Gene? If you think about we got in the Europa, sorry, Gene, we got in the Europa, we could still get Gordon, Diomande, Matheus Fernandes, and a good centre back, and maybe even another full back. Would you not think that would be enough to mount a title challenge next season with the right manager? Because you've also got the caveat of you would go all in on the league, because you could play a weakened team in Europa, couldn't you?
Have you said Diomande, Wharton, Ben?
I said Diomande, Wharton, Gordon, and a defender of, you know,
100%. We challenge. We challenge. There's no doubt. We challenge. I genuinely believe with that. thinking
As
maybe
opposed
one
to-
more would make it easier, if I'm honest, in terms of midfield. Maybe I'd swap one for somebody else because I think we need physicality. But that team and with the Xhaka as well, I think we're good enough to challenge. We've seen how good this league is.
And then the alternative is we keep Slot, but then we get Elise. This is a perfect scenario. Keep Slot, but then we get Elise, Camavinga, and I don't know, another elite centre back. Which one would we prefer?
I think that's a good question. I think that's a good question for the chat today. Would you take no Champions League football if it meant Liverpool change their manager in the summer? Gene, Deline,
League football, man.
doing Champions League football. It's lot. Listen. I've turned my camera off about.
But if we're keeping Slot means I've got flipping Diomande and Gordon, then of course I am. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say I don't want Champions League football. I can't stand the manager, but I want Champions League. This Liverpool team deserves to be in the Champions League, man. We can't be sat bloody playing Europa League, mate. But if I'm honest with you, how can I want a manager that's got us into fucking Europa League in the first place from being champions of the country? That's another issue that I've got right now.
Yeah.
It's really difficult for me to say keep. It's really difficult for me to say, keep Slot and Europa League. Very, very difficult, man. That is really, really difficult for me to accept, Ben.
Yeah.
I can't accept that.
Yeah, I agree. I had another really interesting scenario as well. Listened to another podcast this afternoon, just walking the dog at lunchtime, and they said that if we are to assume that we're talking with players right now, then players are going to want to know who the manager's going to be, and therefore by default we have to assume that we think that Alonso has been courted and a decision's been made that he is going to come in the summer. So we have to assume that deal has been done, it's been shaken on, and like that's what's going to happen. But he only wants to come in the summer. And then the scenario was, but if Slot wins the Champions League, you can't sack him. But then the one person said, and I actually agree, that even if Liverpool were to win the Champions League this summer, I still think if they've done a deal with Xabi Alonso or another elite manager, that they would still shake hands with Slot in the summer and say, you go out on a high, thank you very much. You've done an amazing job for us.
That is difficult, Ben. That is really, really, really difficult.
But I think that's what we would do. I think that's what we would do.
As much as I've slated the manager, Ben, how do you sack a manager who won you his title in the first year and bought you the Champions League in the second? That's mental.
Yeah, no, because obviously it's highly unlikely to happen. Well, it's pretty much not going to happen. But if it did, if they've already done a deal with Alonso, what did they do? Did they just say to Alonso, we've changed our minds? Because we've got to assume that they're not just going to do a deal with Alonso at the end of the season. They've done it now already. We have to assume that, don't we? Do we think that if the manager's changing, that they've already done a deal with somebody behind closed doors? Because they will have to tell players that they're courting at the moment. Like, say, Jamie Carragher, for instance, he's going to come in, and I think he's going to come in regardless of who the manager is. But I think certain players are going to want to know who the manager is.
Of course.
Same way as like, and I think we will have had to have done something already. That's why I think Alonso's gone quiet. He's not being linked with any other teams. I think Alonso is going to be our manager in the summer. But I think it's going to happen regardless of the scenario. Whether or not we get Champions League football, whether we don't get it, whether we win the FA Cup, whether we don't win it, whatever scenario, I think he's coming in the summer. And I think they're almost thinking, we hope he doesn't get Champions League, win the FA Cup and the Champions League, because we're absolutely screwed then. But the thing is, though, and this is what was really, really interesting. He was saying that if that happened, if we won the Champions League and then we shook hands with Slot in the summer and said, this is, thank you very much for your service, blah, blah, blah. I don't think there'd be like a fan uproar. There wouldn't be like
Like you
there
win
wouldn't
the
be like
Champions League.
there wouldn't be like protests outside Anfield saying keep slot,
Ben,
keep slots.
Ben, just think about it. Just think about it. The hierarchy didn't have the cojones to do something. Like, it's really bad now. Like, we've lost against Wolves, we've dropped points against Spurs, and lost against Brighton. Our Champions League position next season is under threat. So what makes you think that these guys will have the cojones to sack their friend, their yes man, after winning the league and winning the Champions League? That has also got him into the Champions League as well. So we don't need to go into top 5, top 6, top 4, top 5 via the league. We're already in the Champions League because we won the Champions League. That's right, isn't it? So what makes you think
we could finish 7th if we qualify?
They haven't got the balls, because if they sack him right now, today, I think 90% of the fan base would say, fair play, he's deserved. And those 10%, those hardcore fans like Selection, there's a percent of them in the chat. They'll say, you know, he deserves another chance and all the mitigating circumstances. So if you're telling me they don't have the balls to do that now, how are you telling me they'll have the balls sacking him after winning the Champions League?
No chance. No chance.
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. But if you remember going back when they brought in Kenny to cover for Roy Hodgson, Kenny was awful in the league, absolutely diabolical in the league, but he got to 2 cup finals, didn't he? We won one of them, didn't we? We lost the FA Cup final and we won the Carling Cup final. But there wasn't like, oh, he got to cup finals, then therefore we give him another season. It was like, no, they wanted to bring their man in.
And this is the biggest competition you can win.
It is. But then, as our great friend Jamie Carragher said, the team now is better than the team that won the Champions League when he won it. And I think just winning the Champions League in a one-off game, if things go right, and again, we are speculating because we're going to have to be absolutely perfect and everything's going to have to fall for us. So you just don't see that this happens. But there is a world where we could win it, and it doesn't undo the diabolical performance in the Premier League, does it, this season?
Oh, Ben, you simply can't sack a Champions League.
Shows you what this club's done, isn't
that
it?
is
We've gone full circle here.
Ben,
you two fighting for slots here, and I'm saying get rid of him.
I know.
That's what he's done to us. Oh, man.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Testing.
We've touched the nerve.
Testing.
Touched the nerve.
Testing.
Big
testing
up,
1,
Jamie,
2,
big
testing.
Anjay.
Don't speak too hard. I'm in one of the. I had to blag out to go in one of the prayer rooms at the airport. Guys. I just heard.
I thought you were going to say he's in the toilets in the plane.
No, I got a quick 5 minutes. It's a prayer room they use, so I had to quickly come in here. Ben, I think you mentioned that you'd sacrifice the Champions League this season win. What did you say? And you want us to be in the Europa League if it meant getting rid of Slot?
Yeah.
No,
I think that's where I'm at, mate. Yeah.
No, that's fair, but no, I honestly
1 season to get the right manager. I think that's where I'm at this moment in time, because I've been so sort of disheartened by the performances. I just don't see it changing.
That's fine, Ben, but that's absurd. I tell you why that's absurd. First and foremost, we're Liverpool Football Club. The history, the heritage, the traditions. You can't sacrifice a lesser competition for the big one. And look, I know Slot's football has been dreadful. Yeah, dreadful. But so was Hulier's. So was Benitez's, really. The football wasn't glamorous and great as it is Jurgen's Klopp. Jurgen Klopp spoiled us. 100% I agree with. But if it meant winning... But I think you've made a great point there. And it's not far-fetched. I think if we do win the European Cup, I still think there potentially is a gentleman's agreement that Slot still walks and we bring in Xabi Alonso.
How can you do that, man? How can you get
It's happened. It's happened before. It's happened before at Real Madrid. It's happened before at bigger clubs, at just as big clubs as Liverpool. It's happened.
Di Matteo won the Champions League and then he got a new manager.
No,
No, he got the
Oh,
job,
did
but he
he?
got sacked. He got
Oh,
sacked 6 months
He
after.
got sacked after.
He got sacked months after. It's happened to
Right,
Capello at
right,
Real
okay.
Madrid.
Okay, yeah.
It's happened to Capello at Real Madrid because the football wasn't bad, but he delivered the European Cup. Happened to
You're right.
Ancelotti first time.
Capello, you're right. I agree with you there.
First time round with Ancelotti. I can genuinely see that happening because he's right. He's spot on. We are definitely been doing our homework on players. We are definitely talking to players' agents. And the players and the agents will definitely be asking, what is the deal with the manager? Because there's been so much talk. So that's where I kind of agree with Ben. It's not far-fetched as people think it is. That slot, if we were to do the unimaginable and win the European Cup number 7, that he could still
How
walk.
do we sign a contract with Xabi Alonso and then just say to him, oh, he's won the Champions League now because he had 4 good games where it all went perfect. Sorry, Xabi, see you later. I just don't think it happens because I think they see the bigger picture. Because why have they made that decision to change the manager in the first place? They're basically then the second guessing themselves, aren't they? Because all of a sudden they're thinking, well, we must have been wrong. We'll just give Slot another chance. If they've made that decision to change the manager, which they have to have done, they're not just going to make that decision at the end of the season. They're going to make it now because Xabi will go somewhere else. Or whoever else will go somewhere else.
Tuchel still had a few games the next season before he got sacked.
Capello never won the Champions League according to Billy at Real.
It was the league then, the league title, and then he walked. It was that. One or the other, Billy. Yeah, I like to see you call these two out for what it is when they make mistakes. Salah.
Salah. Billy, when you made a mistake, yaar.
But harsh, that Billy.
He came for me. He won the league that room.
He corrected you. There's a difference.
But there's no way. There is no way. Alonso Asim is waiting on Liverpool.
Blunders in capital letters, to be fair.
It's a love-hate relationship. They're allowed. They were brought up at the same time.
There's no way that Alonso is letting Liverpool bide their time either. There's no way that he's left it to Liverpool and say, listen, if Slot wins the these are the stipulations.
We'll think
about if he wins the European Cup. Yeah, no way. Xabi Alonso is not going to be that kind of manager to wait around.
I think
because Xabi Alonso will probably be involved in conversations with players.
1000%. If
I'll be the most gobsmacked person in the summer if Liverpool win the Champions League and get rid of their manager. I think
we all will. I think they'd love that scenario, to be honest, because it's a win-win situation. But my other point is, I do not think there'll be a fan revolt. If we won the Champions League, we'd all be absolutely amazed and we'd all be buzzing and we'd all be saying, you know what, Slot, all is forgiven. But I don't think there'd be like some sort of mad process to say, give Slot a new contract, because people will still remember that we've lost, probably by the time it comes round, 12 Premier League games, worst points total in a long time, and we've gradually got worse and worse over the last 12 months.
But
can I ask a question?
The big caveat is if we get more players.
Say that, Ben. But if Liverpool were to win the Champions League, and Avi's been talking about this moment, this moment in time, and whether it's a goal or a tackle or a big win, he needs a big win. If Liverpool were to win the Champions League, they were going to have to sort of come and overcome 3 massive hurdles. And I think those moments will come. And, you know, he might be a villain right now, and we could still finish 8th in the league. If he wins the Champions League and gets us that big ears and gets us Champions League through winning it, I think the perception of Arne Slot will change as well.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Asim?
Of course you can.
Do you and to any of the 3, Ben, Asim, Sajid, if they want to answer this, do you think Slot's career at Liverpool as manager is hanging on by this Champions League run? Like, as soon as they're out, I think they'll make a decision.
Oh, you'll get to
no, because I think they make a decision in the summer now.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless,
but you know what? I would.
It gets really,
really
bad. Like we lose the next 3 games.
Asim, how bad can it get? How more bad can it get? Really? Come on.
I'm trying to be, you know, like put myself in their shoes. We wouldn't make the call right now.
Really bad is we lose the derby at Everton in the first away derby, and they go up.
Lose the PSG, Yeah,
Lose the derby.
that's really
You
bad.
got to do something. Yeah.
Then it's
But
mental.
Alonso's not going to come in before the end of the season because I think that's what's been agreed. So the other scenario is let's just change it slightly and say, what about if, I don't know, we go out to PSG as we expect, but then we do something, we do the miracle and we beat City on Saturday and we go on to win the FA Cup. I still think we shake hands with Slot in the summer if he wins the FA Cup and gets
FA
top
Cup's not good
5.
enough.
I agree with that.
I agree with that. FA Cup's not good enough.
I
'Cause you miss out
can't agree
on
with the
league.
Champions League,
I
Ben,
know.
No.
because he hits
But
two
what's
birds
the
with
difference
one
though,
stone
in
there.
terms of the,
Bro,
if
one
you
second.
signed a deal, do you think they just break it?
The size of that silverware.
You know, wait,
No,
one
I
second, I
know.
need to put this
So do you
message
think they literally just break the contract?
My only thing is,
Imagine he beats PSG, Bayern, and Barca, bro. I'll build him a statue at fucking Anfield, mate. On his slot.
I'll start calling Sajid Sheen after that.
No, I'll say, call me what you want. Get me number 7.
Oh,
But I got, guys, this is
So just here's the
before I go,
scenario then.
my-
Here's the scenario. Here's the scenario. We've been in conversations with Michael Elise for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we're like, listen, we're going for it all in this summer, 100 million. Well, don't worry, we'll sort it out. We're done and dusted. The new manager's going to be Xavi Alonso, and this is it. We're signing, sealed, delivered. Then all of a sudden we win the Champions League, and then we say to Michael Elise's team, "Oh, sorry, we've changed our minds. It's actually going to be Slot who's the manager next season." And he's like, "Well, no, I've had conversations with Xavi. I know where he's going to play me. I'm signing because of him, etc., etc., etc." I think there's so many things that are in place already,
which
That's
makes
where
me
I'm
think,
thinking.
which makes me think they've made their decision
They haven't made
regardless
a
of what
decision.
happens. Well, regardless what happens.
Hmm?
And I think the general consensus is that they will shake hands with
Think so.
Slot regardless.
Wow.
Because you don't talk to someone like Michael
maybe
Elise.
they think we're not winning the Champions League anyway.
You don't talk to players like Michael
Yeah, no, I
Elise.
think they do.
I
don't
think that's the big key. I think they just think, fuck this, we win the Champions League anyway. So if the player who
Yeah, no,
that
I
we
do
want-
as well. Yeah, for the record, I think they're laughing and thinking, you know what, you're taking the piss, aren't you? We're not beating anybody in the Champions League now. You know,
So if anyone's asking, a potential player is asking, and right now they're saying Alonso's coming in the summer.
Jolo,
I mean,
but
I'm
you can
going-
always,
I have to go.
you can
I
always
have to
hope,
go.
can't we?
Any bombers? Any bombers?
No, Alex Scott. That's the name that I keep getting.
Alex Scott, yeah?
He's the name.
Alex Scott,
And
he's a
that's-
Europa
That's the
sign.
Europa League. Yeah, but you know what? But
Yeah, he's a Europa sign.
top clubs are after him. Top clubs are after him. Top
If someone like
clubs.
if someone like Curtis Jones goes, I won't mind someone like Alex Scott.
I don't think it would be a brilliant purchase. He's an upgrade on Curtis Jones, if anything.
Every time I watch Alex Scott, he impresses me. He impresses me. But Avi,
Let's-
Tika,
If we,
safe journey.
sorry, go on, Avi's got to go. Avi's got to go.
No, go on. Last time, go on, Ben.
Let's. I was going to say, let's flip it round and say, if we didn't get into the Champions League and we only got Europa, is there a big sale that we all of a sudden make this summer if we don't get into the Champions League? Who
No,
could
not
go
for- not-
this
not for
summer
me.
that maybe wouldn't go?
Not for me.
Nobody.
Not for me. Not for me.
A big sale. We
So
got
you think
nobody
there's
to sell.
no way? There's no world in which. There's no world in which if we don't get Champions League this summer, the decision's made to sell Vert, Isaac, or Ekitike, for example.
No way. They're the future. I think there's obviously McAllister's that I think should go.
Curtis Jones, Muhammad
What
Salah's
about your
wages.
mate, Avi?
Curtis.
Which one?
What about Tom?
Let's see what contractual talks transpire over the next few months. I'm worried about Dom. I am worried about Dom.
Mm.
I'm worried how much money his agent or he wants on the table, how much we are prepared to offer him. I'm worried. But let's see. I could be totally wrong and he signs a contract tomorrow.
I don't know why you're worried, Avi, because he doesn't start in your team anyway.
He doesn't for me, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad player though, Ben. He's still a great player to have in your team,
You
in your
didn't bite
squad.
that, Avi. You didn't bite.
No. I can't, Ben. I can't, like, because I'm at the airport.
I'm on the bench.
Okay, Tika.
We shall see.
All right, nice one, guys.
Avi,
I
always
will-
a pleasure.
I
Avi,
would-
take it easy, mate.
If Spurs get relegated, which I don't believe they will now, deservedly, I would have definitely looked at 2-3 players from their squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, guys.
Zerbi's
All
a
right.
great signing.
God bless you all. I'll get some updates for you, Asim, on Friday evening because I will be with John Henry at Boston. Thank you.
Okay, take care. I'll catch you later.
Thank you, guys.
He's a lad, isn't he?
He's a proper. After Asim's kids doing his bloody head in today, mate.
How do I close the
Jinxie
stream?
Word, chill out, man. Jinxie
How do
Word,
I close the
Are
stream?
we still on?
Do not close the
Yeah, I'm
stream.
going
I'll
to
kill
kick it
you.
out. He's
Yeah,
still on as
Jinxie,
well.
What? If we get top
I
four,
think this is what
and
this
don't
is
win
what
a
we're talking
trophy,
about.
He will be the manager next season. If we get top four,
But we don't win a trophy. Xabi Alonso
Yeah.
for me. I think
Gene,
Xabi Alonso
Gene, I'm
would
going to have to
be
leave the
very-
stream, yeah? You just go
Okay,
through
you
the
go.
supers and I'll catch you. Ben, I'll catch you later.
right? Let me.
Take it easy,
We'll do
mate.
the supers and we'll call it a day. But let me.
Okay,
go
yeah,
to
we're
the
on. We've been on for
supers.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know we need to call it a day, right? Let me do these two supers before we go. He goes, by the way, Carragher and Souness like Kante plus money for the same reason they dislike Pogba and more. Low maintenance versus very outspoken as dark individuals. Look, I don't want to go down the racist sort of route, man. It doesn't, for me, that doesn't, I'm not a fan of that. I don't believe that Jamie Carragher is an actual racist, if I'm honest with you. So let's, chill out. They might have issues with certain players like Souness. He didn't really like Pogba for whatever reason. Doesn't make him a racist. He doesn't. It's certain players I have issues with. I go for, doesn't make, if I go for a certain player who's white, it doesn't mean I'm racist because I'm always having a go at him. I don't believe that, and I'm not. I would never ever call anybody a racist without especially having any sort of bloody proof. It just doesn't make any sense. Ben, this one's for you. If players knew that Alonso was coming, do you think Slot would too? His agent handed players Pimenta. I don't know what he means by that. If the players knew that Alonso was coming, do you think Slot would too? Do you think Slot knows Alonso's coming?
So basically, so therefore, and I think he might well do. I think he might well do because I think if he's being truly honest with himself, I think he should recognise and understand that to be at an elite club like Liverpool and to have the record that he's had this season, most managers would have been sacked by now. So I think he knows that he's lucky to still be in a job. And I know he said, and I respect and I like the fact that he said that, Liverpool is a club who supports the managers when they're struggling and stuff, and we are realistic about that. And I think they have caveated his performance this season with all of the stuff that's gone on in the summer with Jota and everything that's happened, like the Isaac injury, etc., etc. There are some mitigating factors, but you cannot get away from the fact that certain performances at certain times of the year, you can't blame any mitigating circumstances on those performances, and they've just been way below what's expected. And I think the comments that have come out from certain journalists over the last few weeks as well, the cracks are there, and the information is coming out that I think Arne Slot deep down knows that he's on borrowed time. I think he's achieved the completely unexpected achievements of winning the league in his first season. And I think deep down, he's wanted to kick on this season, but he's dined out on it for too long and it's caught up with him. And the players have just gone through the motions in far too many games, and you need a manager with a real presence about him. And I think that Arne's a really nice guy, but he just hasn't got that personality and presence to be the long-term manager for Liverpool.
Fair play, big up Yusuf. Thank you very much, mate. He goes, Mo Salah, the Egyptian king. Forget what everyone says. We know he's number one, and they hate it. Forget top four and Champions League. Let's get Xabi and start fresh. Ben, he's on your train. Doesn't care where we're at. Let's have a new start. Get Xabi in and go again for next season. Bring in the right players and take it from there.
Agreed.
I think we are done, man. I think we're done. I'm going to call it a night.
Flew,
We've been going for an hour and a half. Bloody hell. I didn't even realise we're an hour and a half.
Hour and a half,
guys,
mate.
smash that like button.
It
It does indeed. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. I am not too sure if we're going tomorrow, but I think we will be going Wednesday. But definitely
big one Thursday. Quiz night, quiz show on Thursday night.
Ben has got a new quiz for us all, so make sure you join us for the Thursday quiz. It'll be some. I'm definitely
a little teaser. Your all-time Premier League 11 draft. So we're picking our all-time Premier League 11s but we can't obviously have the same players. You're only allowed one player from each team, and the team is basically built on the team that they played for the most, and you're only allowed to have one player per nationality as well. So have a little think and see what you can come up with, and we're going to do that on Thursday night, and then you'll be able to vote and see whose team is the best.
Right, guys. Over and out. Take
Done
care.
and dusted.
We'll speak soon.
Good night.
Bye-bye.